All right, guys, since it's a little bit on the slow side out there right now, I just want to do a quick recap of some of the morning actions. So starting with EYEG, I actually thought that this would be a really interesting one to go over today because there's a few things that I wanted to touch on. And, so the first trade on this one, the only trade I took on it, was short. We kind of had the idea that, I had some areas marked that I decided that if it breaks, X level, I want to short it. I think I moved around my lines since then, but looking at the pre-market here, I believe the level was 30-ish, and I ended up shorting 33 on that bounce back. So I kind of missed the initial wash was just a little too deep for me to want to chase it. Remember, when there's a big wash like that, you almost always want to wait for a little bit of a bounce and then scale in with a plan, maybe off VWAP, for example. So this was actually a pretty good start, short 33. The trade worked almost immediately. I managed to get some covers 22, 17, and 18. And then it just started to grind back. And my original plan was to stop it immediately for a flat, but I let it touch and I didn't stop it there, and I let it kind of come back for a higher low and then stopped it back through VWAP on the last one quarter. So it was actually a decent start. One thing that I wanted to mention, because we've seen a lot of this lately, is the VWAP reclaim pattern. And I've told you guys that I'm looking at, adding this to our playbook if we can see enough examples of this working. And I just want to get it down to pretty much a science of, what are the exact criteria we're looking for. And a lot of the time the criteria is going to be a lot of the same as the long setup. So the stock's going to want to be up on the day, usually bigger than 5%. It's going to want to be up like 20, 30%, enough to get shorts really interested in it. So 20 to 30% or more, and obviously the volume is bigger than normal. It gets under VWAP early in the day, giving people a lot of time. Like, we got short, right? So a lot of people time to get short. The difference between us and a lot of other traders is we trade very objectively with a plan. So as soon as our plan no longer exists, we're out for either a break even, almost always going to get a profit first because we always lock in along the way. But a lot of people tend to get themselves, stubborn on these trades. I think a big part of, sometimes a part of the problem, and it's kind of weird that this is a problem, but is that you do your research, you know a lot about the company, you know that, for example, you don't like the deal, you don't like the company, it's got debt, whatever it is that you think that is the reason why the stock shouldn't go up, can be a big problem for people, because then they think that they have a reason to ignore the technicals, ignore the price action, and hold a short, and it can just turn into a massive loss if you're stubborn like that. And so imagine if it had have actually held on to 70 and then went for that 3 push. There'd have been a lot of people stopping out for big losses that were short. The original risk reward you're looking for is like, maybe $2, maybe $1.80, but now you're looking at basically no risk reward. You're looking at, you're praying to break even on the trade now that it's way up here again. So I always tend to look at these, and it's always nice to know what to know about the company, whether it's, whether the deal's good, whether the deal's bad, they get debt in the books, or that, people that dig through the SEC filings, I love that. I really appreciate it. But there's a lot of opinions getting thrown around in chat that can be really distracting to people that are trying to trade objectively, which to me means that, a lot of people are like, saying like, well, it's a short on all pops now, just short the spikes and all that. Well, for me, it's great to know that the stock is, that fundamentally the stock isn't very sound, and that, probably it's not going to hold its gains today. But at the end of the day, man, that's useless unless you're going to trade with a system, with a plan that's going to protect your capital and get you in the right time, in the right place to have that conviction. So I'm only just bringing this up because sometimes even I find some of the comments distracting, because it's just like anything that comes through, any idea that's like, oh, it's a long here, it's a short here, it's a long here, it's a short. There's a lot going on there. I don't look at it like that. To me, it's not a long, it's not a short, it's nothing in this entire area right here. So I had a plan for both sides, and I just want to explain to you what the plan was. So I think it's really helpful to look at a chart and look at a stock kind of objectively, instead of trying to have a bias, but just saying that, look, okay, I don't need to believe that this stock is going to go up. I don't need to believe that it's going to go down. All I'm going to do is trade based on what the stock, what the chart and the price action is telling us to do. So I might make a plan, for example, like I did in here, where look, right now this is just a big mess. Okay, I didn't get any long signals in here. This came kind of close, not really. I often see this type of setup fail when there's big resistance above like that, and there's a big overhead like this over here. So I didn't really get tempted to long it in here at all, in this area. And what I liked was when it kind of put that little base at 59, then it tried to pop back up. That's where I kind of mentioned on the stream that, hey, 59 is potentially a nice sell area. I get sometimes find it difficult to want to short over VWAP, and I find it even harder to short through VWAP unless on a candle like this, especially the way that it's been trading, unless we first bounce, put a lower high, and then I like it the next time around because then you can risk off 60 safely because it's already put that lower high in. Does that make sense? But the point I'm getting at is try to look at the trades first objectively and first in terms of like price action and fun and technicals, and then second, then now once it breaks 59 and you're short and then you've reshorted VWAP, now you can say, great, now that I know that the stock is garbage plus the technicals are telling me that it's a sell, I can totally hold on to this all day and be totally comfortable with it, for example, right? So yeah, unfortunately I didn't short it through 59, although I had this really strong suspicion that this seemed like the spot to me where it failed to break out here, it failed to break out here, held 59, it needed to get back over 65 and set up. And I'll tell you that if it had done a little consolidation, I probably would have bought it through 70 that next time with a risk off 64. But in this type of scenario with a chart like this, I kind of needed over 70. So I kind of needed to get over that resistance. So again, one thing that I see is quite common, that's a common problem, I think, is getting long under a resistance level. There's a difference between a breakout level and a resistance level, and this just seemed like a big resistance level where we just couldn't get over it. So had we got over 70 and then held a higher low, then you could look for a long setup towards 75 to 80 with risk off 70, looking for that high day break, for example. But yeah, just be careful, not to confuse people too much with a bunch of different opinions. At the end of the day, what we're trying to do is we're trying to trade objectively, meaning we're trying to make plans that make sense. So if we're shorting 59, we can risk off 64. That makes sense. If it puts in the lower high under 60, we can short into VWAP, risk off 60. Perfect plan for more fade. But just saying, like, short all pops into this move doesn't really... it's that's again, this I've been through it all, and it's, as far as the long-term strategy goes, it's very difficult to sustain, and you're going to find a lot of rough patches along the way, I think, with a strategy like that. So fundamentals, if you're into them, awesome. I appreciate it more than anyone. I absolutely love it. I absolutely love knowing that we have a team together that's really getting to the bottom of these things, and we're working together to find those areas that we want to short, we want to long, and those areas that we want to, to have the conviction to know that the stock is either a good stock or a good company, or the news is good or bad. And there's at least 4 guys here that are really good at doing that. So the teamwork is awesome. There's a VWAP retest. But just be really careful not to, try to have something so that it's not just like an opinion. Try to give us, if you're going to post in chat, something that people can use to get by, like, oh, I'm thinking that, short 64, risk off this is a good risk reward trade. But just, short all pops, that's kind of tricky for people to follow, and it can get a little distracting. So try to think objectively. I love the fundamental research. Let's try to use it like we've been using it lately, which is in with the technicals, so we can really put it together. But yeah, I'm a little disappointed to miss that trade, but it's so early in the week, guys. There's so many trades we're gonna have this week. You don't need to feel pressured to make that trade. And I think that it's in this area, it was a very, very challenging chart. I think a lot of people got chopped up in this area here, for sure. People are thinking they need to get long, and they're thinking they need to get short. And for me, I just had to wait for that one moment where, here it is. This is the spot where they will sell, that I think they'll sell. And then, of course, VWAP was the second spot. So I had the mark 53, 59. I'm actually disappointed I didn't take BLPH. But it's not really holding up well. It didn't turn into like a crazy move or anything, but the risk reward was good in a trade like this. So I want you guys to take a look at this chart. Remember it. I had some reasons that I thought that I didn't like it, and I'll show you why. That daily chart, man, that's a tough one. That's a tough spot to want to go long into, you know? Huge amount of support there that has become resistance since, or typically will, especially into a big move like this. So, however, with BLPH, I do like the idea of watching this one for maybe a quick washout over lunch and then a setback up over 40. And if it looks good for a long, I will take one later on it. And just to give you an idea of what a typical trade plan would look like on a stock like, or a chart like this, let's say the daily chart looked really good and there wasn't a bunch of resistance there and I was really liking this one. I'd be looking to get long. I was noticing it in this area here, so I'd be looking to get long right in here. And my stop would just be 29. If it breaks 29, I'd be out. Entry is 31 or 32, so you're risking like 3 cents. And you're looking for around a 9 or 10 cent reward. So this trade actually would have played out pretty nicely. I forget who mentioned it, but thanks for mentioning it. Good eye. I did love the chart. I think it was a great idea. But I had to challenge myself with getting on board with it because of the daily chart. So, and just remember, just because I'm not getting long a stock does not mean that you should not be getting long a stock. That's not a good enough reason for you not to take it. If you have a plan that you're like, you know what, this plan makes sense to me, and I trade this pattern a lot. This works. 3 cent risk, 9 cent reward. I like it. Go for it. Go for it, man. I'm very selective. I'm very selective with my long setups. And if I find one piece of the puzzle that's not really fitting for me, whether it's the daily chart or the volume, I'm probably going to leave it. But I will say that, I think it's a great looking chart, but it's not for me. But if I was taking it, like I said, the stop would be 27 or just under 29. And I think that it was a good looking chart. But hopefully we can get something on this one later, especially if it kind of dips down, reclaims, sets up again for us. But yeah, I think we're off to a good start this week. At least one decent trade in there on the short side. Disappointed I missed the second one on EYES, but it did just retest EYEG. It did just retest VWAP. If it wasn't yapping, I might have actually got in there. But that's sort of the midday recap so far. Stocks I want to watch into the afternoon today. Obviously EYEG, we'll keep that one on watch. The next sell trigger on this one is basically going to be through... I'd say this one, if it gets back through 240, look for it to make the next leg down towards 225 or 230. And if this stock somehow miraculously gets back over 260, I will really, really be watching closely. I'll be liking it a lot more for a long at that point. So 260, if it gets back over 260, we'll start looking at it for a long. But let's just assume that it's going to stay under VWAP and fizzle off for now. BLPH, I'm going to be interested if we retest 35 or VWAP and then set up over 40 later, okay? FATE, F-A-T-E. I haven't really paid too close of attention to this one today, but I think it's worth keeping on your screen. It's just a little thin and it's running low on volume. What I'd like to see on this one is a retest of VWAP over lunch. Again, we're getting into lunch, so I'm looking for stocks to come back. I'm looking for them to set up again. So to break down, reclaim, and set up again for late day moves. That's basically my favorite long setup. Is, as you guys know, is a correction, retest, and then kind of pop back up and reset for the next move. JAGX I'll keep on a chart as well. Probably won't get a trade in that one. I don't really like this stock that much, but for what it's worth, if it breaks 109, probably look for a short on that one. I don't think I'll bother shorting because I don't think the meat is there on it, but you can see 102 is a big spot. 110's always been a big spot in this one. There's been a lot of resistance at 125, so yeah, there's a few areas to watch there. So that's kind of where I'm at for the morning, guys. Not a whole lot of momentum out there. Remember what I said this morning was usually on Mondays, what I do, and this may be different from what you guys do, but for me, I usually ease into the week. I really do. I really do find that it's because some days you'll, say Friday, momentum's strong and it's running. Everything's been ripping. I used to come in Monday expecting that to continue, and then I would start smashing the offer and get long stocks in the morning and just have a terrible start to my week. And I hate starting the week badly. So to me, from a psychological perspective and from a trader's perspective, I just like to ease into the week in a way that I have a really good idea of what the momentum is like out there. Are things following through? Is there a lot of volume? Are we getting a lot of runners? Are we getting a lot of secondary moves? So stocks that have a pop in the morning, are they holding a higher low and then having a secondary move, which is the move I like to play because it's more safe setup. So far, I mean, yeah, I mean, aside from EYEG, it's not like there's been a whole lot of volume or momentum out there. It's half decent though, and it's still early in the week, and it is a short week, obviously. So I think that's a pretty good start, and we got some stuff in the horizon for later today. Definitely keeping an eye on EYEG. So that's basically where the morning's at so far for me, guys. I'll start scanning through and looking for some other charts that we can look at in the afternoon as well. Oh, and by the way, for those of you who got the EYEG, I got some PMs. Great job, awesome trade. Sure, it wasn't a home run. We had a great chance at it though. I covered 3/4 of my shares into this first wash because I thought it was a pretty big move. Again, I'm always looking at the big picture of the chart, and if I notice that a stock, you know, if it's been from 260 to 215, you got to think about that percentage-wise. That's a pretty big move. And I wasn't really surprised to see this bounce back. I was kind of surprised to see the VWAP reclaim because I thought it'd be a nice reshort if it rejected it. But that kind of goes back to what I said earlier about the 59 trigger. Sure, that you know, that's a more risky one because it's over VWAP, and although it looks like a spot where shorts or longs would wash out, I'd rather play the VWAP one where if it bounces, puts a lower high at 60, then play it through VWAP the second time with a 10-cent risk. Problem is, without that bounce, you're now chasing big time, which is kind of like what you see here, where a lot of the time you'll see it bounce back a bit. So just a couple ideas, guys, and some food for thought. Anyways, guys, and for those of you that got a nice, you know, 15-20 cent trade on EYEG this morning, congrats. And let's look for a few more today, guys. I think we're gonna have a few more good trades out there.